I will call this meeting to order for October 9th, 2025. Let the record show that all 5 directors are present. And who would like to read our land acknowledgement tonight? Who hasn't done it?
We acknowledge that the sacred land that we live and learn on today belongs to the Takelma, Shasta, Modoc, Klamath, and Umpqua peoples. We honor and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we now call the United States. We recognize the Native American people's continuing connection to the land, place, waters, and community. We pay our respects to their cultures, country, and elders past, present, and emerging.
Thank you, Alice. Okay, so first up, we will have the adoption of the agenda. I have one change to make, which is that we will be tabling item 12A, which was the Integrated Guidance 25-26 Quarter 1 report for the next meeting. So I will take a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. Okay, and next up we have the consent agenda, which this week includes approval of last session's minutes, personnel report, enrollment report, AMS Dean stipend MOA, there's 4 different MOAs, and that's it. So unless anybody has anything to pull from that agenda, I will move that we approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so that brings us very quickly to the bond report, and we have Steve Mitzel to present.
Good evening. It's so quiet in here. It's kind
It
of
is
strange.
very quiet today.
Nope. So yeah, we were not even going to include a bond report because there's really not much that's changed since last month, but we decided to go ahead and include it just for the record so that we have a running copy and that you always have the most recent information at your fingertips. I will say the one update we have is that the shade sails have arrived. They're in the Rogue Valley. All the pieces and parts are here, so we're now coordinating with Outlier to find a weekend where we can actually get those installed. So one of these Mondays or Tuesdays, you'll come in and all that will be or finished there in the quad. So that's great news. Otherwise, just punch list items, fixing little paint chips and things here and there. And so there's really not much to update. We are continuing to work on our presentation for December where we'll pull everything from the entire bond project together in one presentation for you. That will be a more lengthy night for bond updates. But while I have the time, I am going to give you an update on Lincoln Elementary. We have had some movement there. No pun intended. I probably shouldn't say that, should I? We have engaged with a contractor out of the Eugene area that does shoring specifically. So they are, I think Sherry is in the final phases of getting some paperwork wrapped up for that organization to come in, and they said they could mobilize in just a couple of days. So we're hoping to see them hopefully next week come in and do their work, and that will allow us to get a local contractor in there to work with an architect to actually deconstruct some parts of that building so we can actually get some eyes on the interior of that space and see what's going on there. And then they will give us some semblance of an estimate of work to be done, and at that point we'll pause and decide if we need to go out, if it's a big enough number, then we'd have to go out to bid and go through that whole process and spend some time to get a contractor under contract. And that would be a separate process, but we'll have to wait and see. So right now we have a company in there to get the building shored up, get it safe so that we can actually get engineers and architects in there to discover what the problem is. So you'll see some work there in the next few weeks, and then we'll give you probably another update at next month's next month's board meeting. And we probably will know more about what the future of that particular wing is at that time.
So at what point I understand there's supposed to be an insurance assessment, correct?
Insurance is coming along for the entire process here. They will get in there about the same time as our contractor does. As soon as we have it shored up and safe, then they are going to bring an independent engineer in alongside our engineer and our architect. So they'll be in there at the same time. And that's when they will do the work they need to do to decide how much coverage, if any, we're going to get. So we're hopeful that that'll help the process. But yeah, they won't get in there until it's safely shored up as well, which will be soon. And we've been communicating with them every step of the way so they know where we're at in the phases and that they're probably a couple weeks away from being able to get in there at this point. So again, next month, board meeting, we should have a lot more information. So.
And what decisions or actions, if any, does the board need to take on Lincoln?
Right now, nothing right now. Everything we're doing is of a dollar amount that's fairly low. And so we're able to bring in this company that's doing the shoring. If you'd like, I can share that information with Joseph and he can distribute to the board in terms of what we're looking at in terms of estimate. If you're interested, I can even share the plan for shoring with you. We have that information as well. And the engagement with the local contractor to actually deconstruct that is it's not to exceed $10,000, so it stays well within our limits to where we can make some decisions to get this thing moving a little bit quicker. Beyond that, it's probably going to take board action. I can't imagine that the numbers are going to be low enough that we don't have to. I could hope, but I have a feeling we're going to have some board action. So that would probably come a month or so, maybe longer down the road when we know more information.
And I will say, given the snow load that happened last year, is there a timeline that we're shooting for to avoid winter weather, or are we shoring it up for winter weather?
We're shoring it up so that the building's safe under any conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the goal. We're not compromising on the shoring in any way, shape, or form. So it will be a regular what they call a load bearing wall, load bearing shoring. It's going to be enough to hold the load.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're still not occupying it with students until we mitigate completely. So
Thank you.
Joseph said there's not going to be any snow this winter.
Thank you for jinxing us.
So yeah, just let me know if you would like more information. I can share with Superintendent Hattrick what I have, and that way you have the information if you need it.
Whenever it's convenient, I would like that,
Okay.
just to know what's going on.
Any other questions?
Anyone else? All right, thank you. I look forward to seeing the shade sales.
Yeah,
Just in
me
time
too.
for the rainy season.
Just in time. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Okay, next up, we have our finance report, and Sherry, I believe, is via Zoom again tonight. There she is. Good evening.
Hello there. Thank you for allowing me to present via Zoom again tonight. I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see the financial report? Financial report, okay? And I am not hearing
Yes, we can.
anyone.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through the revenue and expenditures as I typically do. And on the revenue side, I've noted that I don't see any great deviations in our cash flow. The revenue coming in, I did make a note about the 5.2 million that we have to pay back in December, and that I'm working with Piper Sandler and Hawkins Delafield, our bond counsel, on the full faith and credit loan. And so that's also included in your packet, some information about that, and we'll get to that in a second. And as Steve mentioned, kind of our wild card out there is Lincoln, if we will need to borrow any additional funds for the Lincoln project, or if insurance is going to cover that for us. And so we're just waiting to hear on that. Any questions on the revenue side before I go to expenditures?
Hey, Sherry.
Yes.
So I read in your notes that the ADM so far is coming in higher than what was estimated. And is that because in general, what does that reflect? Is that, go ahead.
So there's an amount that we estimate that we submit to ODE.
Yep.
And that's what they base our state school fund payments on.
Right.
And so the amount that we estimated back in, so that was in December of last year when those estimates are submitted. So then once kids start showing up in September, then that gives us a better idea of whether our estimate, was low or high or kind of holding flat. And so, comparing that estimate to the students that have shown up this year for school, it looks like our enrollment is a little bit higher. I know the high school has indicated to me a couple of times that they're coming in a little bit higher than what they had anticipated. And so we'll monitor that as we go throughout the year, just to ensure that those projections are holding true and that we're not going to have to make any adjustments with ODE on our ADM, which would then affect our state school funding.
Okay. I understand. Is enrollment or ADM a reflection of enrollment or attendance or both?
ADM is enrollment.
ADM is a reflection of the average daily membership. So it is enrollment, but it's the actual number of students that we have enrolled in our schools, and it's a cumulative number. And so that number is being reflected from the very beginning of school all the way until the end of June. And so depending on the kids that either leave our schools, so withdraw from our schools, or if we have new enrollments coming in, that is all reflected in that cumulative membership number.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now moving on to the expenditures. The main thing that I've noted in the expenditures is that they are coming in lower. So our employee costs are coming in lower, as are the associated payroll costs. And that's where we're seeing the main savings right now. And I've noted that where we're looking at right now, it looks like our ending fund balance is going to be about 3.3 million. However, I caveat that with our insurance fund, which is the one that pays all of our health insurance claims out of. I do believe that because of the reduction in staffing, we are seeing a lower amount of premiums going into our fund 600. And so that savings that we're seeing on the general fund side, I think we'll need to use some of that in our fund 600 for our insurance claims that are coming in. So just keeping an eye on that, and knowing that there's probably going to be some adjustments there that we have to make. And then our cash flow is looking good right now. I mean, just like every other district, when we get to the end of October, cash flow looks pretty tight until those first property tax payments come in. And so those will be coming in the first couple of weeks of November, and then we'll get payments from Jackson County through about the middle of December, and then that kind of wanes off as collections are decreasing. So keeping an eye on that. Any questions on the expenditure side? All right, so one thing that I did want to note, the last page in the financial report is all of our special revenue funds. And the main things that I wanted to just make you aware of is our title funds are coming in a little bit lower than what we had originally budgeted, and that is due to all of the activity at the federal level. And then the other one that's coming in lower is our outdoor school through OSU. We had anticipated about 125,000, which is consistent with what we had for the past school year, but our award came in about 83,000. So I've been working with Rogue Outdoor School, who provides the program for our middle school, and also the Ashland Schools Foundation, and for each of those to help kind of shore up the funding that we need to keep our outdoor school programs as robust as they have been. So just wanted you to know that we are working on that. And on the title funds, Title I, Title II, IDEA, and our SIA and HSS, which is Measure 98 funding. We are meeting next week just to talk about where the funding is actually coming in on those, and if we need to make any adjustments in any of those programs. So keeping an eye on all of our grant funding just to ensure that we can afford what we had planned for this school year. Any questions on that?
Sherry, I just love an update of when we'll be able to see the facility bond kind of accounting summary.
Oh, okay. I can bring that to the next meeting for sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this one and and credit report. As part of this process, Piper Sandler asked me to do a 5-year cash flow projection. And so I did that. I actually did a 5-year and a 7-year, but I included the 5-year because we're hoping that when we take out the loan, we can actually pay it off in 5 years. So I just wanted a picture of what that would look like for us. And so as you see, my assumptions were on the state school fund side. I took an average over the last 5 years and just applied that to the upcoming biennium. And then I did our percentage, so Ashland's percentage of the state school fund. And then I split that 49% in the first year of each biennium and then 51% in the next year. Most of the other revenues remained flat. I did a conservative 100,000 for the property taxes and the y'all. That will probably be a little bit higher, but I wanted to be conservative in my estimates. On the expenditure side, I did 3% COLAs, a 3.25% step for our licensed staff, and then a 10% increase in associated payroll costs. And I did 10% because PERS rates are going to go up a little bit in the next biennium, and then I'm also keeping an eye on our health insurance plan, which we are self-funded for, as I mentioned before. So wanted to go a little bit more aggressive on that. And then I included the debt service in each of the school years. And then all other costs, I just did a 3% annual increase. And so as you see up here, it looks like even with the debt service included for a 5-year offering, we're able to manage that. Especially, I feel pretty comfortable about that because I was pretty conservative on my estimates. And then the remainder of the document is just the work that Piper Sandler has put together for us. And so I took the debt service numbers from this 5-year scenario, and there's a debt service schedule right here. And that's where I took the debt service from. And so with any debt service, you always have to pay a payment in June and then an additional payment in December. And so that's how that is structured. And so that's what I used in my projections. And I know that we have a resolution in the packet tonight, but I know that there was some discussion about potentially moving that either to the October working session or the November board meeting. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to think about that or if there's some discussion that we need to have about that.
Sherry, would it be possible to also just kind of step back one step, just for the sake of new board members, also reminding us even what led to the full faith and credit loan, and talk about the TAN, the $10 million allocated, the TAN loan, and then how much we actually had to use of the TAN and when that's paid back, just to give the full timeline?
Right. So when I came on board with Ashland in February, it looked like there was going to be a pretty significant issue as far as cash flow is concerned by the end of June, this past June. It was looking like it was going to be between 8 and 10 million. And so over the course of the year and the work that the administrative team at Ashland School District has done, we were able to reduce expenditures so that we didn't have to use the full 10 million. At this point, we've only had to use 5.2 million of that. The reason that they did the TAN is that's a shorter term process. And so because we needed the cash, we needed to go with that shorter term instrument, knowing that whenever you take out a TAN, you have to pay that back as soon as you get your first major tax receipts from the county. So we knew we were going to have to pay back however much we used in December. And then because we wouldn't have enough cash flow to get us to the end of this next year, to June of 26, we knew we were going to have to roll that into a full faith and credit loan. And so that's the point that we're at now, working on how much we've spent so far, which is the 5.2 million, and then working with Piper Sandler and Hawkins Delafield on hopefully getting more than one bank that will bid on our offering. I know that the bank that we went through for the TAN was Cashmere, and they have already indicated interest in moving forward with a full faith and credit, but they will have to go through the bid process. So it will go out on the market, and other banks besides Cashmere will be able to bid on that offering. So.
Thank you for that context, Sherry. And so what I'll do also, just for the sake of the board, so there was question about having enough time to consider the resolution. So one board member brought that forward. So typically what would happen at this point is the board would make a motion, discuss it, but I think it's also appropriate to discuss kind of how you want to handle this. What the resolution does is it authorizes the district to enter into this process. So what one option would be is to discuss it tonight, table it if you want more time to consider it, to then bring it back at the November meeting, or the work session. I just prefer regular board meetings just because they're here in front of the public, where people know where to attend. The resolution follows the same process that the TAN did. And so I think it would be great to ask whatever questions you have of Sherry at this time, and then figure out how the board would like to proceed.
Is there any detriment to waiting a month?
Sherry, go ahead.
No, there's not. Of course, I'm going to stop sharing here. Piper Sandler would, of course, like us to have the resolution passed tonight. But if the board's not comfortable with that, there is really no major downside. It just compresses the timeline for them to get their paperwork in order and then get the bid out to the lenders at large.
Would it potentially limit the number of lenders that would put in a bid, do you think, if we waited an extra month?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Can you tell me where the 5.86% came from? Would that go up or down depending on the bids that come in, or do people bid on that percent?
They won't necessarily bid on that percent. That is the percent that we were paying for the tan. And so when they put the bid documents out, they will ask for each of those elements, what the term would be, can we pay it off early, what interest rate they would offer us. So no, they would not necessarily go with the 5.8%.
And that number of 5.2 million, that is definite, right? That we need that full amount with the
Yes.
full faith and credit. Okay.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, the only other little bit of worry out there is if the insurance doesn't cover the full cost of whatever needs to be done at Lincoln, then we might need to borrow some additional, or borrow up, closer to the 10 million. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that PACE will cover that project for us.
Great. And, I will share, y'all, I'm the one that had the reservations around the resolution tonight. Thank you, Dr. Hattrick, for keeping me anonymous there. I'm very comfortable, I will say, with our administration, working with the banks, starting the process, et cetera. But I feel very strongly that I want to make sure it's the board that is executing the final agreement. And so, Sherry, I don't know if there's enough time for you to check with Piper, et cetera, while we continue the discussion tonight. But is it possible to pass the resolution removing that section of the sentence to give you all the authority to get the quotes, et cetera, but ultimately bringing that final agreement to the board to approve?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that at all.
So that's something we decided. But I will say, before we jump into that discussion, if you don't mind, Sherry, I would love to walk through the documents provided again, just to make sure we all have an understanding of what they're saying and meaning, so that we can think about it and decide if we want to move to a work session or not later on. Is that okay with the board? Sure. Because I do have a question on page 1, which is your cash flow projection.
Yes.
So in your cash flow projections, particularly for 2026, 2027, we're having a pretty sharp reduction in expenses. And can you just explain the logic behind that for me?
Yes, that is because of the debt service. There was a debt service issue that we were showing a reduction in expenditures. So when you take out a TAN, you have to show the cash coming in, but you have to also show that you are taking on that obligation for an expenditure. And so going into 26, 27, we don't have that large amount that we had to recognize in our books in 24, 25, and 25, 26. So we had to recognize it initially in 24, 25 because we took the loan out at the end of 24, 25, but then in 25, 26, that's when we're actually having to pay back the 5.2 million. And so we have to show all of that in the books. So then when we get to 26, 27, we're not having that large amount that we're having to pay back. We're just paying back the initial debt service that we will have because of the full faith and credit loan.
Great, thank you. And of course, I just closed my screen, so I'm going to look back at yours. And then the same on the revenue reduction side. Does that incorporate the taking on of the new loan, since we're incorporating the paying back of the
Yes.
old loan?
Yeah, it does take on incorporating the new loan, and there's a reduction there because, again, we had to recognize the revenue, which was a really large amount. It's, to me, it feels like double counting because you have to count it here and then you have to count it again, and then so you recognize basically the revenue twice, and then you have to recognize the expenditure as well. And so that's what makes it look like, okay, we're having this massive drop of revenue in 26, 27 when we're really not.
Great, thank you for those explanations. And so just to recap for me this table, as I'm still wrapping my head around it, this is all anticipated revenue and all anticipated expenses across both the general fund and the special funds.
No, this is only general fund.
This is only general fund, thank you.
Yeah, because general fund is the only fund that's going to be servicing the debt.
Thank you.
I have a quick question that I should have asked during the workday. Sherry, will Moody's have to re-score us? And if they don't have to, could they? Because we're doing better, for a better rating.
They have not reached out to me that they're going to do another rating. I will ask Piper Sandler, specifically Carol Samuels, I will ask her about that. She is far more knowledgeable
Yeah.
about the whole process with Moody's and the rating, and if she feels like it would be worth it for us to reach out to Moody's, or if she feels like we should maybe wait a year.
Sure.
I do know that they do check our audit every year, and if they see that we're doing well in our audit, and if they see that particularly 2 years in a row, then I'm fairly confident that they would reach out to us and want to do another rating for us.
Great, thank you.
Was our Moody rating last adjusted last year? Okay, yeah, that's why it went down, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, it was answered. I was just wondering when our Moody rating was last readjusted.
Oh, it was in February.
Yeah, thank you. Y'all, I have some more questions, but if anyone else want to jump in before okay, thank you. Sherry, I'd love for you just to explain your rationale around recommending the 5-year versus a 7 or 10-year payback.
Well, Dr. Hattrick would really like us to pay it off even sooner than 5 years. And so my rationale really was just, if we can do it in 5 years so that the district doesn't have to extend the obligation for longer than that, that would be awesome. What we can do is we can take out a loan for a longer period of time, which would reduce our annual debt service, but then we could pay it off early as well if we find that we're in a better financial position, or if some other situations occur that the district has an influx of cash. So those are all options that we're looking at when the product is going to go out to bid. We'll have the debt service timeline will be flexible.
Hey, Sherry, will all of the bids have that flexibility, or do we need to specify that we want that flexibility?
So that is in the documents. So in the draft documents, they have indicated an initial debt service timeline. I believe it's of 7 years. And I don't remember the language exactly, but we can have that added in if it doesn't specify that already. I just don't remember off the top of my head if it has the language or not.
Okay. Okay, so just to clarify, at this point, we're looking at a length of 7 years, but our repayment schedule optimistically is 5.
Yes.
Okay. Or less.
Yes.
For the sake of the board discussion, I will say my comfort level is often around have as low of payments as possible and pay it back as you can with extra income that's there. Mostly surrounding, we have so many unknowns around what's happening to the Title I funds, as we see our grants are shifting, et cetera. It gives us wiggle room in an uncertain time. So ultimately, I would ask the board if we give Sherry guidance to make sure we're getting those flexible options to determine at the point of decision.
And you will see as you go further in the document, there are the 7-year projections. So she has been gathering those for us.
Those are great. Sherry, I know a part of, taking on the TAN emergency loan and now the full faith and credit loan to cover the TAN loan itself was kind of just making sure and clarifying some of our facility bond accounting. And just to understand the unknowns that still exist when we go out for taking on this full faith and credit loan. I know we have Lincoln School as a big what if. Is any of that facility bond funds also a unknown, or are we very solid on that at this point?
I don't feel there are any unknowns
Great.
with the bond, with either the funding or the projects. We
Okay.
are winding, as Steve mentioned, we're winding down on those, and so the major bond projects are done. I believe what we're finishing up on now is the seismic portion of that, and so the majority of that is being funded through the state. The district had some obligation for that, but as far as having the cash available to cover that, we're doing fine with that. So there's no issues on any projects out there that we don't have the funding for.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Just to be clear on the timeline of Lincoln and the shoring and the insurance company adjusters coming through, are we certain that that will line up before we're actually committing to a loan? We're not. Okay. Okay.
We're hopeful.
One thing that, and I don't know if this will give you some comfort, but if we get through this process and, we take out the loan and it's only for the amount that we've borrowed, and that's all said and done, and then we get, let's say it's January before we know what the extent of the Lincoln issue is, there is the possibility of taking out a capital loan just for that. And when you do a capital loan, you don't have to go through the same processes like we did for the TAN originally, and then, for a full faith and credit loan for operations. So there are different laws in place for a full faith and credit loan for operations and full faith and credit for capital projects. The laws are much more lenient when you're borrowing for capital.
Are there other advantages to the capital loan? Is there a rationale to keep it separate regardless? Or are there better interest rates or anything for capital loans? Or
I don't think for us the interest rates would be better. I think Ashland's gonna have to show a couple of years of positive ending fund balances before that would make any impact at all on the interest rates that you would see, whether it was for operations or capital.
Sherry, I'm hoping you can also walk us through the resolution and just explain what each section means for both us as a board as well as the community.
All right, let me bring that up. Motion.
Yes.
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 Okay. All right, so the first section of the resolution in section A is just stating who we are and that we had entered into a note previously not to exceed the 10 million, which they called a refundable facility, and that was to address cash flow needs, and then it references the resolution that approved that. And then B is just stating the law that allows the issuance of that. And then because we do need to paid back what we've borrowed, that we've determined that we need to refund all or any portion of that. And so they kept that language flexible in the event that we did have to borrow up to the 10 million prior to when the full faith and credit goes into effect. And so the resolution is authorizing the district to enter into one or more financing agreement to refinance all or any portion of the refundable facility, and that we can issue the amounts in an amount, or the facility in an amount that is sufficient to cover what we need. And then this resolution also delegates the board chair, superintendent, finance director, or any other person designated by the superintendent to act on behalf of the district pursuant to the resolution. And it's authorizing us to select a portion of the refundable facility to be refunded, so the amount, and then to work with our Piper Sandler mainly and Hawkins Delafield, which is our bond counsel, to determine the final principal, interest rates, payment dates, etc., negotiating those final terms, and then executing and delivering those agreements. It allows us to select the bank or other lenders, and then take the actions to prepay all or a portion of the refundable facility, which is the loan. And then determine whether financing agreements will bear interest that is excludable from gross income under the Internal Revenue Code. And because we're a public entity, that is excludable. And so there's a form that we submit to the IRS stating that. And so we've had to do that. Every district has to do that whenever they go out for a bond or any other kind of financing document. And then applying legally available revenues. And so that's just saying that we will pay that back with the revenue that we have available for that. And then to appoint and enter into agreements with bond counsel, placement agent, which bond counsel is Hawkins Delafield, the placement agent is Piper Sandler, and then any other service providers for the financing agreement. And then we would execute and deliver any other certificates or documents and take any other actions that the district official determines are needed to carry out the resolution. And then the last section, section 3, the district official may pledge the district's full faith and credit and taxing power within the limitations of section 1111B of the Constitution to pay the amounts due under the financing agreements. The district is not authorized to levy additional taxes to pay the amounts due under the financing agreement. So this is telling us that we do not have the authority to put a levy out to the community. We have to pay this back with revenue that's already available to us. And it's effective immediately upon adoption. And so if there's any language in here that you want to change, or if you want to add something that says that before we sign any documents with a bank, we can add any language that you would like to add here.
Sorry, I'm taking the mic on this one. Sherry, a quick clarification question for you. In section 3, that last sentence, that we're not authorized to levy additional taxes to pay the amounts.
Yes.
We are going out for the youth activities and academics levy again in May. We do not use those funds to pay off of our bond, but would that in any way impact our ability to go out for that operating levy?
Nope.
Okay, just wanted to double check that.
Yep, that was a good question.
Yeah. And I will just speak to the board. You know, my hesitation on the resolution is just really in that section 2, sub-bullet 2 and 3, where I want to be able to make sure that the board is providing some guidelines around what type of loan we're looking for, and then making the final choice of what that loan looks like. And so I don't know if we want to wordsmith here in council chambers or in board chambers, or if we want to take it back at the work session and make that a meeting to vote. I'll look to Sherry and Dr. Hattrick.
Well, it sounds like what I'm hearing is you're just wanting some more detail of the final loan terms. And so, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, as the agent of the district, do we already have the authority to engage with the banks to have them make proposals at this point, or do we need some sort of board authorization to have that work be done to then present the best offer to the board?
So we do need the resolution in place so that Piper Sandler can get those bids out in the community and the world at large so that we can get the bids in. We can definitely.
Could we simply add a number 10 that says to bring the final proposal to the board for final approval?
I would actually, in sub-bullet 3, remove the words "and execute."
Sure. Yep.
I would hope in tonight's meeting, before we pass this resolution, we discuss and determine the final principal amount, interest rate goals, payment date goals, prepayment rights, et cetera, to help provide guidance to our district authority. And then maybe between 4 and 5, add the sub-bullet that says, bring to the board for a vote for authority to execute.
And that makes perfect sense. I think with that in mind, for the sake of public, perhaps Sherry and I can work on that on the back end and bring that for the work session, and then make a proposal for those items, since then the public, the regular meeting would be the final proposal that we would bring forth. So I like that way, that path forward. If that were something the board would be interested in, I think what we would look for is a motion to table at this time. And then Sherry and I, and that is assuming, Sherry, you're okay with this plan, that she and I could work for the next week and a half on those pieces, and then bring those to the work session to finalize a recommendation.
Yeah. And I want to, recognize I'm the voice of one. Board members, I'd also please speak of whatever process feels best for all of you.
I would simply make a motion that we do that, because I think it's the right course of action to go ahead. Let some of this work happen behind the scenes, and then go into the work session, and then bring it back to the November meeting.
Okay, now just to make sure, I know there are some changes in our schedule for holidays. We do have a work session, right, in October? Not in November? Okay, thank you.
Well, you've said that Piper Sandler, though they'd prefer it, they'll be able to work with us, so I don't see a reason not to delay.
All right, in that case, I will take a motion to table for tonight and proceed as suggested.
Motion to table.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sherry.
Yes, thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, so I think that's the end of the finance report, correct? Anybody else have any comments or questions? Then we will move on. And our next item is recurring reports. We will start with OSEA. We have James Johnson here tonight.
Hello. Gonna be short. So AMS has been prepping for tomorrow's in-service, and it's been challenging for our head custodian because on different days she's been missing some of her staff, but it's ready. And Debbie Larson, she's at AMS. She's the technical service coordinator. She started recruiting for this year's Oregon Battle of the Books team. For the board members who don't know this, or should know this, we were the state champions for middle school last spring. So she's going to go do it again. And I've got a message from Steve Essig, he's the OSCA chapter president. We are seeing incredible volatility of insurance markets across the U.S., in part because the Affordable Care Act tax credits are expiring this year and currently not being renewed by the federal government during the shutdown. Our insurance committee is doing a lot of great work to mitigate the suffering to staff and their dependents, in large part due to strong protections in the AEA and OSCA contract. But without federal money and a national collaboration to fund and subsidize our working class families' health care, we are heading down to an anxious and fraught path. We have a call to action to call your senators and representatives to stop the health care price spike now. Our partners at the AFL-CIO have a line to direct your call and learn more at, use the number, 855-493-4407. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's all.
I'm sorry to interrupt. James, do you mind repeating that phone number just a little slower for folks?
I can do that. It's 855-493-4407.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. And next up, we have a report.
Thank you. Alan Porowski normally does this, but he's just had a couple conflicts. So I'm Kelly Martin. I'm our AEA co-president, and I'm a second, third grade teacher at Hellman. This first part's from me. For a number of years, AEA has asked union representatives at each site to write a quick update of how things are going at their schools for our monthly report to you. We generally read these as they are written, so you will hear about the great things that are happening at our school, as well as the challenges that might be occurring. This means that sometimes the reports are hard to hear and hard to write, and hard to read. We are all aware of the budget cuts and the reduction in staffing. This creates challenges for everyone in the district, teachers included. In this month's report, you will hear a few repeating themes of the impact of reduced educational assistance, increased student behaviors, and how hard teachers are working to meet new demands. At AMS, Ashland Middle School is buzzing with activities of engagement for the season, yet there are concerns about holding on to the resources that ensure success for all staff and students alike. Due to the cuts in EA staffing at the special education level, there are significant concerns for burnout due to the levels of aggression we are seeing from students. Also, a number of staff members feel that the new requirements for overnight field trips are excessive and may discourage parents from volunteering to support a traditionally meaningful outdoor program for sixth graders known as ROS. Certainly, there are ways for us to discuss how we can meet the insurance requirements and still offer great opportunities for all. Ashland Connect is growing with 4 new students in the process of enrolling. Students are adjusting to less time in person, but enjoyed our trip to Lithia Park with Trails last Friday. It was a win-win, an enriching experience for Ashland Connect students and more staff coverage for Trails, which enhances student safety. Bellevue had a great jogathon to raise money for our PTO. Teachers are really feeling the lack of EA support with tricky students this year. Hellman's primary staff is working at all hours of the day and night, plus weekends and holidays, just to keep up with the very large class sizes, increases in undesirable student behaviors, the combination of grade levels within classrooms, new curricula, and the decrease in classified staff. All of our teachers are working hard to support our students while navigating all the new things. We are grateful for the support our principal is providing. Everyone at Trails is working hard. Cutting one of our math positions and EAs is really impacting students. They are having shortened classes with one instructor rather than full blocks. The middle school fall unit studies trip to the coast was a huge success and very empowering for students. Everyone at Walker is working hard. New curriculum, larger blended classes, less EA support, and lots of student needs feels overwhelming at times. We're looking forward to an in-service day and a long weekend to catch our breath. And finally, at Willow Wind, so many great things are happening at Willow Wind. We continue to hope that EA time will be restored. EAs help students with social emotional learning and behavior regulation and provide critical academic support. Teachers and students are missing this important support. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, and next up we have our student representatives.
Hello, everybody. So October is a super busy month, especially at the high school. We have homecoming taking place, which is an Under the Sea theme on the 25th. We also have our homecoming football game and our Grizz gathering, which is like a community outreach and fundraising event all in one where kids can come and hang out. There will be a rock wall, there will be a bouncy house and face painting, and that happens right before the homecoming game. The parade also takes place on that Wednesday, the 22nd. AHS now has a dance team, and they performed for the first time at last week's football games halftime, which was super amazing to see, and there's a lot of positive feedback around that. I'm sure a lot more people are going to want to join. Last week, the boys soccer team secured a huge win against Jesuit, and they're now ranked second in the state. CCR and macro classes are full of students completing FAFSA and applying for colleges, so a lot of our seniors are very busy right now doing that. Native American Student Union hung the Oregon tribal flags in the library last week. Key Club assisted in distribution of Monster Dash flyers downtown just yesterday. Savannah Ellister is our Rotary Student of the Month, and we are all super proud of her. As I said, this is one of the busiest times, but also one of the most exciting. Students are super excited for the upcoming events, but we are also collectively looking forward to this 4-day weekend. Thank you.
All right, and then I only have one project that Alice and I have been working on, which is we've gotten into contact with the leaders of our student unions at Ashland High School, which is Native American Student Union, Asian Student Union, Queer Straight Alliance, Black Student Union, Latin Student Union, and the Jewish Student Union, which just started this year, which I personally find exciting. We are planning to meet at least once a month, and our goal is to bring more voice to the minorities at our school, accurately represent our student body, and to do things that maybe an individual student union couldn't do, and bring a bigger group of supporters to them. And then if we could get the picture up. Our kickoff event was the John Powell event at the Angus Bomer Theater. And wait for it. There we are. That's our group, and we all really enjoyed the wisdom that Professor Powell was able to share about bridging and connecting with our community.
So those are the leaders of the student unions there in the picture?
Yeah, and some of their friends.
Okay, awesome.
Some were not able to attend. We didn't have Queer Straight Alliance or LSU, but that's most of them.
Okay. All right, that's great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And I will move on to board reports. Who would like to kick us off? We can just go down the row again.
So thank you. We did not have a work session last month due to your equity conference. Thank you for going to that. This past Monday, I got to go to the John Powell event. It was wonderful. I know a lot of us got to go. It was great to see y'all there. Very thought-provoking. On Friday, September 26th, I got a chance to volunteer with the Pedal Power program. And I want to commend the Ashland Climate Collective and their team for putting that together. It is really cool. And I'm very proud to be at a district with that kind of partnership. It was really well, and so I had assumed it had been going on for forever, and it was the first date they had done it. It was so smooth. So that was really fun. I got to attend the Ashland Schools Foundation meeting. A reminder that Monster Dash is coming up on Saturday the 25th. Registration is open at ashlandmonsterdash.com. That's the day after homecoming game and the day of the homecoming dance, so it's a busy weekend. I learned at the meeting that I think we got the biggest number of grant applications ever, record number. The next deadline is Monday, November 10th for those. So teachers, please get those in. That's great. Got to go to the Pride event, and we got to, well, you got to lead the parade, Dr. Hattrick, as Grand Marshal, but it was great to be right behind you, holding a banner. So that was a wonderful event. And I was so impressed with our community for that. And I'm looking forward to Kelly Clarkson's show next Thursday at 4 p.m.
Okay. Paddle power. Okay, I want to know more. Okay. I've been attending boys football and girls soccer. Next game is Grizz girls versus Springfield, Saturday at 3 p.m., and then Grizz boys versus Mazama, Friday 24, 7 p.m. kickoff. I just, Coach Utoff and her coaching staff, so back to soccer, are growing a powerful and very skillful team. It was very interesting to hear the boys are doing so well. I thought that was awesome, by the way. And they're really fun to watch. They're tough. They're winning some games. Right now, they're 5 wins, 5 losses, and one tie. Utoff is doing a nice job. She's building a nice program for the girls. My kids and I went to the Hellman Hoedown. We walked in the cakewalk, but no cake. I attended an ethics training offered by OGEC, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. I enjoyed being part of the Ashland School District contingent for our Pride celebration. That was great fun. I attended the panel and lecture by Dr. John Powell on radical collaboration and belonging, launching our Valleys All Together Now effort. I also read 2 more ELA books, Narrative of a Slave by Frederick Douglass and The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. Did I say his last name right? Anybody know how to? I don't know. Close enough, probably. That's it.
Yeah, I'll just add on top of that, y'all threw a great high school open house for the parents. I got to attend and feel the vibes, and it was fabulous. Also got to see the high school jazz band play at the Ashland Green Show, which was standing room only, but just enough room to dance.
Yeah, just a few highlights to add. I really enjoyed being part of the 2nd annual Ashland School District contingent in the Pride Parade. And the ethics training I did not enjoy as much, but it was useful. The only other highlight I had was getting to attend the Welcome Back picnic for Willowwind, and which was a really lovely turnout of community. It was packed, families running around, eating hot dogs that were grilled by firefighters and climbing in and out of fire engines, and it was a lovely time. Yeah.
All right. And so obviously a lot of these activities we end up doing together. The ethics training was agreed, interesting. There were some really interesting points. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the the policies were written so long ago. We had this really interesting discussion about the GoFundMe, right? And how when these policies were written, these things didn't even exist. And so now we're going back and having to kind of redefine, where the boundaries lie. So it was actually, I thought there were a few interesting moments there. Let's see. Jordan and I both went to a ScienceWorks meeting, which was also very interesting. It was sort of a gathering of minds in the community, just as far as where ScienceWorks is headed and how we can make it sustainable for the future. So that was really important and exciting. I think I was glad to be a part of that. Let's see. I saw the jazz band. Unbelievable. I have to tell you, they were amazing. So good. And the Pride Parade, of course, that was always so fun. And let's see, I went to an AHA meeting. So AHA is the Ashland High Arts Association. So they provide grants and stipends for students in the arts. Mostly talking about how to maintain, again, sustainability in this time when so many funds and programs are being cut. And I will throw in one extra thing about the Monster Dash, which is, I know many of us, maybe even you in the past, have volunteered for the Monster Dash. So I encourage anybody who hasn't signed up, including those of you out there, it's so fun to do. You can go out there. If you go to their website, you can find a lot of different positions to volunteer for. And it's just a great way to see people. Everybody is always out there in such a good mood and having such a good time. And so it's a great way to sort of have a good time and also give back to the community. So I encourage you all to do that. And that's it.
I'm going to be there, and I'm going to participate, and I'm going to be a skeleton.
So, nice. Okay, I look forward to that. And I'm hoping that Dr. Hattrick is going to show up with something this year.
Maybe.
A little something. Okay. We'll see. Okay, so that's the end of board reports, and we will move on to public comment. We had one comment submitted to the board via email, which was asked that I would read that into the record. This is from Jennifer Carstensen, who is the band director at the middle school. So I will try to speak very fast so that I make the 2-minute deadline. I'm speaking for Jennifer here. My purpose here is to inform you and to be proactive about the future scheduling for ASD band classes. During the 24-25 school year, the AMS band program had 6 classes with a total of 151 student contacts. In the spring, all staff received a clear directive that classes for the following school year would be expected to have an average of 25 per class. Even though the AMS band program was already meeting that criteria, a decision was made to reduce the number of beginning band sections for the 25-26 school year. I predicted that the interest in joining band amongst the incoming cohort of 6th graders was going to be high enough to warrant 2 sections of beginning band. The ensuing encore survey results showed that over 50 incoming 6th graders chose band as their number 1 option for their year-long elective. Despite this high level of interest and the fact that it meets the average class size of 25, Mr. Retzlaff chose to limit the beginning band enrollment to 35, which is 10 over the average, rather than reinstate the usual 2nd section of the class, which would be a 0.1 FTE. Currently, after allowing most of the interested students in my class, I am teaching a group of 53 students, all in the same room. Lauren Trolley is assigned as my assistant in this class, but it is still unrealistic to expect 53 students to be in a middle school class together, especially since 53 divided by 2 is still over the mandate of an average of 25 students per class. It is my hope that the district will find a way to put the 2nd section of beginning band back into the middle school schedule for trimester 2 and for future years so that all of the students can learn in a manageable class size, a class size similar to their other subjects and a class size that meets Dr. Hattrick's metric. In our district, 6th grade band is the gateway to the rest of the program and is vital that students experience success and enjoyment during their first year of band. Okay. So sincerely from Jennifer Carstensen. All right. Next up, we have Superintendent Report with Dr. Hattrick.
All right, good evening, everybody. You reminded me of so much that has occurred in the last month. Ethics training, high school open house, Willow Wind open house, OGEC training. I did forget about that intentionally. No offense, OGEC. But I will begin in the tradition that started last year with reading my presentation of the Rotary Student of the Month, which was presented last week on October 2nd. It is my honor today, last week, to introduce our October Rotary Student of the Month, Savannah Elster, a senior at Ashland High School. From the very beginning of her time at AHS, Savannah has demonstrated the qualities we most value in our students: curiosity, hard work, kindness, and leadership. She has deep love for learning, especially in history and social studies, and has shared her dream of one day becoming a teacher herself. Whether it's working with young children in an elementary classroom or inspiring high school students in history, Savannah's future in education is bright. But Savannah's impact extends well beyond academics. Volleyball has been a defining part of her life. She has played all 4 years for Ashland High School and continues year-round through her club team in Medford. Not only is she a 2-year team captain, but she also gives back to the sport by coaching younger athletes, helping them develop both their skills and their confidence. Her coach describes her as a leader who is positive, knowledgeable, and always ready to help others. Savannah's teachers echo this same admiration. In ceramics, she has shown resilience and creativity, taking on challenging medium with persistence and enthusiasm. In science, she has distinguished herself in both chemistry and AP environmental science through her strong work ethic, thoughtful questions, and consistent excellence. Her teachers see her not only as an exceptional student, but also as someone who uplifts those around her, an individual who takes pride in her school and community. Outside of school and sport, Savannah stays grounded through her connections with her friends and family. She also works weekends at the breadboard, balancing school, athletics, work, and service with remarkable grace. Looking ahead, Savannah plans to attend a 4-year university, major in education, and pursue her passion for both teaching and coaching. Given her character, her talents, and her heart for others, I have no doubt that she will continue to inspire and lead in whatever path she chooses. Savannah, on behalf of the Ashland School District, the Rotary Club, and our entire community, it is an honor to recognize you as our October Student of the Month. Congratulations. So I first want to share that in accordance with House Bill 2453, Ashland School District held its first District Equity Committee on September 15th. Our first meeting had representatives from students, staff, parents, and community constituent groups. I'll continue to keep the board informed just as that group evolves. Just for a tiny bit of background, the role of the District Equity Committee, it is a superintendent advisory committee, and it's to advise the superintendent about educational equity impacts of policy decisions, inform the superintendent of larger district-wide climate and the experiences of underserved student groups, and advising the board and superintendent on how best to support. Also inform the superintendent when a situation arises in a school of the school district that positively or negatively impacts underrepresented students. And so we're currently in the process of just determining the structure of that group. And so in our upcoming meetings, we'll be determining frequency, how those meetings will run. And so I'll just continue to keep you updated when we determine that. Next, I also had the honor of attending the John Powell event. I was part of the organizing group, which has just been a true pleasure. And I just want to give the quote that was on the flyer: "Bridging is not about erasing differences, it's about connecting across them." And I found one of the most inspiring parts actually was at the very end when there was asked of our community for commitment about being a belonging community. And so I'm really excited to see the work continue in its next version as we continue the work following the event. So more to come on that. As mentioned earlier, I attended the Oregon Equity Summit with a group from the Ashland School District. We had members of our staff present, and we presented on how to establish and maintain affinity groups, which I'm glad to hear our student reps talked about our affinity groups. So that's great. I also want to thank the staff, school board in particular, and community for their participation in last weekend's Pride Parade. It was truly an honor to participate in that. And it's a time for us to ensure that all students are cared about and know that they're cared about and supported as they are at the Ashland School District. So thank you all for your part in that. Tomorrow is the district's annual Equity and Wellness Day. It's a professional development day for all staff. I'd like to invite any board members if you'd like to take part in that. We meet at AMS Gym at 8 a.m. And it is an all day of learning. So if you'd like to come by, you shoot me a text if you have any questions. So that's an all day thing. And October is Principal Appreciation Month. So please, community members, board members, staff, join us in celebrating your principal, your child's principal. That's what October is all about. And then, yes, thank you for reminding me. Next Thursday is the Kelly Clarkson Show on NBC. Check your local listings. Ashland Schools Foundation is putting together a viewing party. And I want to make it clear, it's not to celebrate our appearance. It's an opportunity to celebrate the sacrifices and commitment of our staff, both last year and this year. And so we'll be sending out information to the Ashland School District staff about this event. It'll be a private event for staff to truly honor all of the sacrifices that they've made. And so I wanted to make that really clear that that's what that viewing party will be about. I've had other community members say that they're planning to do things. So for those of you watching, if you want to take part in one, ask around. There you go. And in closing, with so much mention of equity at tonight's meeting, I want to bring back a commitment statement that I shared last year. And as we start a new school year, I think there's no better time to just reiterate our commitment to all people. And so this is a statement of commitment to all within our school community that I drafted and shared last year. I don't remember what month. Do you happen to remember? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. It's relevant no matter what month. Hello. I want to take a moment to reaffirm something that is at the heart of everything we do in the Ashland School District: our unwavering commitment to every student, every staff member, and every family in our community. We welcome all, as you are. We're committed to ensuring every person who walks through our doors deserves to feel safe, valued, and seen for who they truly are. While the world outside our doors may feel scary and confusing at times, while at the Ashland School District, we want you to know that you are valued and you are loved. Of course, we have policies that guide our work around how to treat people, but more importantly, it's our shared responsibility to bring those commitments to life in our classrooms, hallways, and workplaces every single day. We know that equity is not about policies, it's about people. It's about ensuring that each student, no matter their background, race, gender, identity, ability, or circumstance, has the support and opportunities they need to thrive. It's about uplifting our staff so that they can do their best work in an environment where they feel respected and valued. It's about partnering with families and to create a community where every child feels a sense of belonging. As we move forward, we do so with intention, using compassion and love to remove barriers, challenges, inequities, and create spaces where all voices are heard. This is not just a goal, it's a promise. A promise that in the Ashland School District, every student belongs, every staff member matters, and together, we will continue to build a future where everyone has the opportunity to succeed. Thank you for being a part of this work, this district, and thank you for standing with us in our commitment to equity, inclusion, and belonging for all. I'm personally thankful and proud to live and lead in the Ashland School District community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joseph. Okay, so we move on to unfinished business. So we're going to skip 12A and move on to 12B, which is the Youth Truth presentation. And we have Assistant Superintendent Michelle Cuddeback here to present for us. Welcome.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I know on the agenda it said an in-depth report of Youth Truth, and I would just like to make a correction. This will not be an in-depth report of the Youth Truth survey data. It will be a high-level report, and just want to explain why for a moment. We try to keep this data high-level in public view. It is important to share back with our public the perception data that we receive, that would close that communication loop. However, this is an anonymous survey that staff, families, and students take, and when we go into too much detail in a public manner, we can compromise that anonymity, and which could in turn result in people not trusting our survey mechanisms and not wanting to participate in the future. So we try to be very careful about the way that we share the data, and our staffs do go in depth looking at the data in very disaggregated ways and looking at different groups and cohorts and things like that. But for public purposes, we'll stay high level. So what is the Youth Truth Survey? So it was just a little bit of history about it. It started in 2008 by the Center for Effective Philanthropy, founded on the premise that listening to students and capturing their perceptions is a way to make greater academic outcomes. Over 3 million student surveys have been completed using this survey since 2008, and so we get some pretty good nationally normed data that we can compare ourselves to, and I'll share some of that tonight. And the important thing is that we listen to the voice of our youth that we serve, we learn from their feedback, and we improve based on what they tell us. So today I'll share a little bit of the data and what we got from students, staff, and families. We had really great response rates. We had district-wide student. You can see there we had 87% of our students, and this is grades 3 through 12. We had 47% of our families participate, 92% of staff, for a total of 2,963 respondents, which is 400 more than last year. So that's pretty significant gains. We have made a real effort to get the word out and try to get as many voices as we could to capture the diversity in the people that we serve. You can see the different schools there, high school, middle school, and then elementary is all consolidated.
Michelle, can I interrupt with a quick question?
Yes.
Was this our second year of doing Youth Truth?
No, we have participated in Youth Truth, I think back to at least 2018, 19, maybe even 15, 16. We've been participating, so we have a lot of historical data that our schools can dig into to see how they compare pre-pandemic to post-pandemic as well.
Great, and it's always taken in the spring, is that right?
We've played with the timing in different years. The last few years we've taken in the spring. We tried fall one year, and we tried February one year, so I think the spring is the best. We survey our community a lot, and so we try to be mindful about not over-surveying at one particular time of the year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so it measures a variety of categories. Engagement is one. And what I chose tonight to share are the categories where we have similar questions across groups, so we can compare how the perceptions of our students, family, and staff rank. And so you can see the types of questions that elementary students get, secondary, family, and staff. So the degree to which they perceive high expectations for elementary students and feel engaged in their school and their education. For secondary students, which would be middle through high school, the degree to which they perceive themselves as engaged with their school and their education, and then families feeling engaged and having a voice in influencing decision-making, and same with staff. So we had at elementary, 91% of, these are percent positives. So in elementary, students give their scores on a scale of 1 to 3. And so this would be the percent that put a 3. And for secondary, it's a 5-point scale. So it would be the percentage of students who rated that a 4 or a 5. That would be, agree or strongly agree. And so we had 91% of our students. That's up 2 percentage points from last year. That's what the parentheses are. That shows the difference over last year. And then the percentile ranking. So you can see how we ranked to nationally other schools that participate in this survey. So that is what the different columns are. Let's see. Do I have a cursor on the screen? Doesn't show up. So under students, you can see in elementary that placed us in the 83rd percentile. Which is high. That was our strongest area across the whole district. Middle school, 41st percentile, and high school, 6th percentile. So we have some work to do as far as high school engagement, and I would say middle school engagement as well. A real celebration there at elementary. Families, similarly, with the highest coming out at elementary, a slight dip from last year, 65%, and that was 3 percentage points lower than last year. 4th percentile at the middle school and 20th percentile at the high school, but that was a 20-point gain in percent positive for the high school. So last year, that would have been, so last year was 24-25, so 29% of students, families at high school felt engaged, and that 324, only 9%. So that was a big growth area. Still have lots to do, but whenever we see double-digit gains like that, that's encouraging. And then staff, you can see how we ranked there: 69th percent, 71st percent for elementary, middle, and then 12th percent for high school. And feel free to just ask questions as we go. Relationships, we know how important relationships are in our work. We're a human business. And so elementary schools, they're answering questions that then measure the degree to which they have strong supportive relationships with their teachers. Same with secondary, that they feel they receive support and personal attention from their teachers. Families, that they feel that they experience positive relationships with their school, feeling respect, care, and approachability. And then staff, the degree to which they experience positive relationships with their school, also based on respect, care, and approachability. And then you can see how each level came out there. Students, elementary was a bit lower percentile-wise than the engagement, which is interesting. And in each of those, we went down slightly percentage-wise for the percentage of students, families, across every level that reported that in a positive manner. But still 74% of elementary students in grades 3 through 5, and Willowin and Trails would be in the elementary data as well, because the whole school takes it together. I would say another strength there, you can see from staff at the middle school, 6-point gain, 91% of staff answering that positively about relationships in the workplace.
I'm just going to make a comment. So interesting when you look at those student responses, how the elementary 74% is 33rd percentile, right? I mean, if you look at what your baseline is,
right,
how different students are when they hit middle school as far as their relationships.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing.
That's a good point, and that's why having percentiles is so important. Because, we can think 74% is pretty great. And then we look, oh, well,
Yeah,
compared
it's
to
not so
everybody
good.
else, maybe we have some work to do there.
Yeah. And then 47% is like, oh, yeah.
61st
pretty well.
Okay. Another area that we look at is culture. So for elementary students, the degree to which they experience an orderly, respectful classroom environment. And secondary, that they believe that their school fosters a culture of respect and fairness. For families, it's measuring their belief that their school fosters shared goals of respect, fairness, and diversity. And for staff, that they believe their school fosters a culture of shared vision, respect, and effective communication. So this also, there were some questions about fair discipline that was looped into this category. So it's interesting how it's measuring slightly different things for each of these groups, but it all goes into culture. And so you'll see for students in elementary and high, that was not a difference. We held steady at 22%. There was a slight increase for middle school. Elementary and middle school put us squarely in the, low average range of 57th to 54th percentile. And then for our families, 57th for elementary as well, slightly lower family perception than students. And the middle school family perception was definitely different than the staff perception. Staff was 72% positive, which is an increase, and that was the 70th percentile. So not only do we look at the actual respondents, but do we have a difference in the perceptions between groups? And then we think about why that might be and how we are reaching out to different groups or reflecting on our practices and how to be more aware to meet the needs of different groups. Russell?
Michelle, do you know if the elementary students and family had significantly different questions? I know that nationally they're both 57th, but that's a really big spread in terms of 23% of the elementary students are reporting positive versus 82% of their parents.
Well, the questions for elementary schools are a lot around behavior. So you can see how it's orderly, respectful classroom environment. So they get questions like, do kids behave? Do kids treat their teacher with respect? Do teachers treat their students with respect? Things of that nature. And family, so the kids are more observant of what's happening in the classroom and what they're feeling as far as that goes. And then the family is what they feel, like what sense of culture they have with the school, right? So it seems like, to me, the elementary one is more of an observer of the students or observing what's happening around them, and the family one is more of like feeling what they feel when they are invited into campus, or what their student might bring home, but also incorporating, like, does the school value diversity, and do they feel like things are handled in a fair and respectful way? So it does measure slightly different things. Good question. Academic challenge. So this one is not, there's not an equivalent measurement for family and staff, and the next measure I shared doesn't either, but I feel like this is a really important one. This is, this is what we're all about, is making sure our kids feel appropriately challenged, and with the engagement one at the beginning. And so elementary students, do they feel their classwork is engaging, thought-provoking, and relevant to their lives beyond the classroom? Secondary students, similarly, that they perceive their academic environment as challenging and supportive, focusing on effectiveness of teaching methods, the rigor of assignments, the encouragement to persist through difficulties, and the overall preparation. So we know that this is critical to kids wanting to come to school. If they don't feel engaged and they don't feel that their work is meaningful and challenging enough, then that's where we get some apathy and we get kids not wanting to come to school. So this is a big measure for us to pay attention to. It has been an area that has been a consistent, over years, deficit, I would say, or opportunity for some real change and reflectiveness. We're at 10th percentile, 16th percentile, and 2nd percentile, respectively. And then another one, belonging. So this is, how do our students feel? We know that belonging and relationships are critical to student success. And this doesn't have a similar measure for family and staff, but this is where it's important for us to really lean in and listen to what our students are saying about how they feel belonging. This area was one of our strengths, so I think that's a great celebration. Dr. Hattrick just talked about equity and inclusion. We have our students talking about the work that they're doing at the high school of bridging gaps and bringing communities together, and that's what belonging is all about. And so it's great to see that this comes out at 63rd percent, 68th percent, at the high school 48th percent. We're on a positive trend. It was up 6 points. So that's all encouraging. We have been putting a lot of efforts towards creating welcoming, safe, inviting environments where all can learn, and learning is for all, and that's what belonging is all about. So how do we use this data? So schools dig into the data on their own level. They have a lot of different reports they can look at. They can compare themselves to just other Oregon schools. They can compare themselves to small schools, urban schools. There's all different ways they can slice the data. And they use that in their strategic planning to help inform their goals for school improvement plans. All schools have a goal that aligns with our safe and welcoming environments. And then we use it as a district as well to help inform our strategic work. We definitely use this perception data when we are determining our district-wide goals for our integrated guidance plan, which is basically what's taking the place of our strategic plan this year. We're using those goals as our strategic plan. And it helps inform allocation of resources. Do we need to put more resources towards culture, belonging, academic challenge? What does that mean? How can we make some gains there? And so we use our perception data along with our state assessment results, along with our interim measures of like IXL this year. It used to be iReady. So we use multiple measures to help us create plans that will ultimately serve the students the best that we can. They can look at disaggregated by focal group as well. So they can break it down by gender, by race, ethnicity. They can break it down in lots of different ways.
Are there communities of practice where we can learn from either districts that are using across Oregon Youth Truth or nationally to learn from districts that are doing a lot better on some of those where we're not doing super hot?
That's a good question. Not that I'm aware of. I could reach out to our Youth Truth reps and if they could help us with specific schools where they've seen make gains in those areas. They're more than happy to help us use the data in different ways. We just haven't done that yet and asked that question. That's a great idea.
Yeah, quick question. Does the equity committee get this presentation disaggregated by focal group?
If they requested it, yes.
It's part of that. Okay, just wondering if that's part of it. My other thing is I want to, say gratitude to the staff and to the board. Seeing that presentation, it looks like the integrated guidance plan is spot on what we really want to be focusing on. Also recognizing changing a lot of these perceptions is a long process. I would love next fall if we can see kind of the progression from 2018 to 2025, 26, just to be able to recognize and celebrate where we have made good growth and more easily identify where the changes haven't worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think my question is probably way beyond the scope of what we can talk about here. But well, number one, I love this data. Like, to me, this is such a unique set of data that we get that's so different from anything else that we are able to collect, and it really gives us such a different insight into what is working and what isn't working in our schools. That being said, I am very concerned about especially that second percentile at the high school as far as academic challenge. That is obviously disturbing in and of itself, but also the fact that that has maintained, as you said, over a consistent pattern over the years. So I guess my question is, what have we done in the past, which clearly hasn't really had an effect, and how can we do better? Obviously, will be the next question. because that's so important. That's what we're here for.
I have a question for our student reps. Is any of this surprising, or does this inform the work that you do as student leaders?
You guys are talking a lot about like the second percentile of the level of challenge, and I do see that coming from some students, but I find it a little surprising because I think it depends on the like classes you choose to take within yourself. Like I know personally I've chosen to take harder classes and I find them very challenging. So I'm wondering if it's data coming from kids who aren't choosing to take, for example, like APs or something, but who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's a lot. I mean, that's sort of the point of this data. I mean, it is perceptional rather than, scoring a test or something, right? And so there's so many other influences that can drive something that maybe feels a little bit out of whack with what you see day to day, right? So those are all questions to ask. Anyway, I would love to spend some more, time on this at some point in the future.
Yeah, I'd just add to what Alice was saying, in that in any of the rankings, there's so many different types of people and people with different interests at the high school that it's hard to put everybody into one ranking.
Yeah, I really appreciate your points that it can vary so much for each different individual, and thank you for sharing that. I do see that we have a pretty robust response from the high school of 77% of students. So it's wonderful. And I guess just to reinforce what you were saying, I'd love to see, not just for the high school, but for every level of school, what we've done over the last years, and that hasn't played out. And, best intentions and doing the best work we can, but like lessons learned and what we're adjusting course to try and improve this perception of academic challenge really at all levels.
So I wanted to say thank you for clarifying that the school officials dig into this at school level. That's awesome.
Yes, when I was principal at Hellman, our site council spent quite a bit of time looking at this as well, and looking at it in a variety of different ways and helping us draft the school improvement plan as well as the staff. So there are opportunities for community and parents to be involved in that look as well.
Do you know that, are they doing that at all the school sites? Is there?
I'm not sure. Yeah. Site councils are typically involved in the school improvement plan. And so I'd be surprised if they weren't. To what level that they're disaggregating it with that group, we can find out. Yeah. I think Kelly's leading it at Hellman this year, so.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Very interesting. Okay, next up we have OSAS data report, and that will be from Superintendent Hattrick.
I'm going to click from the podium because I want to display. I have 2 minutes for a public comment. Okay. Great. All right. So we've got some good news to share tonight. Who's laughing? We've got peanut gallery in the back. All right. So the Ashland School District performed wonderfully on our state assessment last year, and I will begin by learning how to use the mouse. There we go. So I'm just starting with the graphic showing the 23-24 scores and the 24-25 scores, as well as the comparison with the state average. So just starting with a graphic, shows a fairly good picture. Science is consistent with what we're seeing across the state. We saw some growth in math, but really good growth in ELA. One of the high spots in ELA was our 11th graders, which I'll just go into maybe. And I've broken it down so we can just talk about each subject area one at a time. So ELA, we saw huge gains with 67.7% of students meeting or exceeding state standards. That's up 7.7 points from the previous year. The state average was 43%. And then you can see the largest gains, third grade, 14.8% growth, fifth grade, 9.6% growth, and 11th grade, 18.9% growth. Our math increased to 51.1%, surpassing the state average of 31.5%. While the growth was just 1.1% as a district, we saw third grade at 14.4%, sixth grade at 9.9% growth. Again, I'm just giving a really high level. Once we've really worked on the data, we'll give them more detailed. And we did see a trend statewide with 8th and 11th grade seeing declines. And so we're going to be really looking at that to figure out how to remedy that and the causes for it. And then science, we held steady at 48.3% with a state average of 30%. Grade 11 proficiency went from 45% to 51.6%. But here's the thing that I'm most excited about sharing. Last year, Ashland School District, if you look at all of the 180 some school districts, we were below, well, the state does not rank our districts, but that doesn't mean we can't. So we were below the 10th, so we were 11 or lower, but not anymore. In ELA, we rank 6th in the state of our 183 districts. That's 97th percentile. Math, 6th in the state, and science, 9th in the state. In Southern Oregon, we're number 1. So that's pretty outstanding. So that is a really high general look at our state data from last year. I'm happy to answer any questions, but like I said, we'll get really more detail once we've had a chance to have the data for a little longer.
So my first question for you is, as superintendent, how do you feel about this? But more importantly, how is it going to inform your vision for the next year or your work for the next year?
Yeah, I feel great about it. I mean, if you think about all that our students and our staff and our district went through last year, we would not have predicted this level of growth. It shows the grit, the tenacity, the commitment of our staff and our students. It tells me that there is nothing that will get in the way of learning. So I'm really proud of our students and our staff. But what it also tells me is we still have a long way to go. As a superintendent, am I ever going to be okay with or happy with 67%, 51%? No. I'm going to be happy when we've got 100% of our students meeting or exceeding standards. And so we just continue to look at that. And so what you're going to be hearing starting next month is our schools are going to be reporting on their school improvement plans. And one of the things that you'll be hearing is how do we ensure that our students who are meeting standards can begin exceeding standards, and the students that aren't meeting standards can begin meeting and exceeding standards. And so those are the things that you'll be hearing from our schools about how we can continue to see those achievement levels increase.
And I want to give a shout out because my understanding is the growth that we have in our ELA assessments was under our old ELA curriculum, or is that with our new ELA curriculum?
That was
on our own. And so I know there was a lot of teachers not liking that ELA curriculum, so
Right.
bravo
Right.
for helping our students learn with imperfect tools.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know, again, I'm just going to make a comment here. I mean, this is so interesting to me that, here we're looking at this and then having just seen what Michelle was showing us. And it feels like at face value, there's this huge disconnect, but not necessarily. I mean, it's so different what these things are looking at. Like here we have these students that clearly are achieving, and yet, they don't have this sense of being challenged. And so where can we meet? Feels like we're doing the right thing, but something we're doing isn't quite
Right, and so those are definitely the things that when I'm working with the high school staff, those are things we're going to want to hear in the school improvement plan.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
And just wonder if there's an inverse relationship there of if our test scores were lower, people thought things were harder. If that makes sense. Like our test scores are really high, and people are like,
obviously,
it's
some
easy.
of it has to do with expectations and environment and community. So yeah, it's a very complicated question. Interesting. Anybody else? Thank you.
Well, somebody needs to say congratulations here. So,
Yeah.
Dang it. Really, really nice. Just terrific. Makes me feel proud. So there.
Sorry. So next up, we have Superintendent Hattrick presenting to us on the class size / instructional model.
All right, hi. My next 2-minute presentation. And so this is a presentation that is in our AEA collective bargaining agreement that is to be presented to the board every October. And I put the language in this presentation, which is why I'm displaying it so that you all can see it. The language in the bargaining agreement, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Employees and administrators agree that the following average class size and student daily contract goals are appropriate for providing a quality educational environment. Within existing budgetary constraints, the district shall attempt to maintain class sizes and student contacts as close to these goals as possible. Oops, wow, that's a sensitive mouse. So this is the language in the collective bargaining agreement. I apologize, everyone. And then at each year's October school board meeting, the superintendent and/or principals will report on each school's plan towards achieving class size and student daily contact composition goals that maximize student learning with resources available. So we thought the first step in achieving this was to give our current reality. And so I'm not going to promise 100% fidelity of the data, but we did do a kind of a cursory review of the data. And this is what we found district-wide. Now, remember, this is averages. Current. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's incorrect. So that is current, so 25. This is current classes, yes. There you go. So these are averages. So you're going to see, obviously, classes that are well above and below. And so this will help put things into context for what is in the bargaining agreement. So for example, I probably can't shrink, but I can do this. So right now we've got blends. And so the language says, I'm just below. Kinder at 18, first grade at 20. And so because of the blends, we combined, and there's an average of 21. So we're slightly above what the average would be. Second and third grade, the desired was 22 and we're at 25, and so on. And so I just want to share with you a little bit about what the district is currently doing. So, and this was shared in Michelle's presentation 2 months ago about some of the changes this year. So homeroom-based model, students stay with their homeroom teacher for all subjects with additional staff providing small group instruction and supporting learning at different levels. So that's creating lower student-teacher ratio during core instruction. That is not district-wide, that is in select classrooms. Is that correct, generally? Depending on site. And then at the AMS, so 7/8 teams they do have higher class sizes, but then there was also a third team to serve integrated instruction and academic support, so that was able to decrease class sizes for some. And then just going forward, we're going to continue to evaluate what's working and areas for improvement, continue to prioritize professional development, and as we continue to improve the district financially, we're going to modify the right sizing plan to determine the appropriate staffing levels. I think it's really important to continue to restate that we're not out of the financial crisis or position we're in. A budget crisis is never what's best for kids. And as we get through it, we need to figure out what the appropriate staffing level is. This is triage. And I'm hoping 1 year only of triage so that we can now get back to what's right. And so we honor that, we recognize that, and we're going to continue to evaluate that. And then as enrollment grows, we'll evaluate the needs. At the high school, we'll be looking at subject levels, and at others, we'll be looking at grades as enrollment grows. Then we'll make those shifts. So that is my first attempt at this report. I don't think I did it last year, so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Hart, will you be sharing this report?
Yes.
Okay.
And it'll be available on the website too, on the board agenda. Yep.
Could you scroll back up to the tables? And can you just define total student contacts, please?
Caseload, how many students a teacher
Okay.
has
Is that per day or over the year?
per day.
Thank you.
Do you have any state data for this most recent school year to compare to?
No, but I can get it. It's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would like to see if we, we sort of,
Comparisons.
we have this model. Let's take advantage of it
You
and
bet.
see what are the outcomes in,
Yeah.
this different situation here. I mean, obviously this was intentional, right? We had to do this.
Right.
And so it would be, since we had to, we might as well take advantage of any data that we can get out of it to show, whether it did have any impact.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you.
Don't move. Oh, okay. Well, because you're still up for the next couple.
That's okay.
Okay.
Not displaying the next.
Okay, so the next is our cell phone policy update.
All right, cell phone policies. We are using our work session for the most part. Now we've added an item, but that's okay. To really talk through, that's the wrong policy, cell phone, and working through our current policy as well as comparing it against the recommendations from the state. Now, the process we're going through right now is to gather as many samples that have been adopted from other districts to see best practices, and then when I look at those, I'm asking superintendents how it's being operationalized. It's one thing to see it in writing, it's another to see how it's actually looking. So I have one example, you can take one and pass it down just from where? West Lynn. So we really don't need to spend a whole lot of time unless you've got a lot of questions, but right now, just to clarify, we're currently under our current policy. The goal will be the plan is that we will adopt policy before winter break for implementation in January. Ideally, we'd do adoption at the November or December meeting for implementation in January. There's not a whole lot of changes that need to be done. There's just a few things that we need to start considering. It is bell to bell. Districts are struggling with what to do at lunchtime, especially with open campuses, the storage requirements, the discipline requirements, as well as the exceptions. And so those are some of the things that I will have a lot of questions for the board in our work session of how to handle those, as well as suggestions on how other districts are handling them. Our Southern Oregon ESD is also gathering examples of all of our Jackson and Josephine counties of how they're implementing the policy. We have a couple districts that still have not done this as well, and they've got varying levels of implementation. So I'll be able to provide that all as well. But I'd be happy to answer or collect any questions that you have in preparation for the work session.
One question I would have for the work session is just at least anecdotal overview of how our current policy is being implemented and how cell phones are personal electronic devices are impacting classes with the current policy in effect.
Okay.
I would like to know what other districts are doing or how they're wording smart glasses.
Say that again?
Smart glasses, like how other districts are wording or like how they're dealing with smart glasses, like the Meta
Glasses?
Yeah. Because I don't know if that's.
Does anyone have them? I want them. I'll ask. I don't know, but I can ask.
Yeah, I'd like to get some input from, not necessarily tonight. I mean, I think as far as this discussion, though, it's going to be very important to get some
I'll
input
meet
from
with
you
the two
guys.
of you between now and then. It's great.
And what you're really seeing in practice. My understanding is, so this policy that we have is obviously for the district, but I believe that individual schools also have their own policies that they are following. So it's different at the high school level than elementary, for example. So it'd be nice to get that clarified as well, what the different levels are.
Perfect. Anything else? Yeah.
I would also be curious if anybody else has put thought to how to approach open campuses.
Yeah, that's what people are really struggling with the most. Okay. I look forward to a lively conversation. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, and next, similarly, we have an update on our AI policy.
And this one actually is pretty exciting. We're, according to, I consider our AI expert, Steve Mitzel, who had to leave, so I'm taking the lead on this. Our policy is much more advanced than even the state's recommended policy. So I think we're in really good shape. I would like us to review this together also at a work session. But I did bring it forward for you all just to look at and just provide an opportunity if you had any questions. The biggest thing I think that's just important to just keep on everybody's radar is AI is not going away. We need to embrace it. We need to make sure that the district is paying attention to it. And I think at some point in the future, we're gonna need to figure out how we can allocate funds for it, committees for it, and really prioritize it around what we're doing in the classroom, how we're incorporating it in curriculum, all of those things. And so enhancing what we're currently doing is gonna be important. And so right now we're overlaying OSBA's recommended policy against ours to see where there's misalignment, but then our goal will be that ours will kind of lead the way. So.
Yeah, so I actually printed it up because I'm actually really proud of this. I mean,
Yeah.
This is something that we did, this was very proactive. This was before there was any sort of a mandate that a school have an artificial intelligence policy at all. And so we came up with this. It has, it's available on our website, but it has, 7 bullet points of policy objectives and then 8 like actual implementation tools. But I will just call out, so it was adopted 5/9/24. So that was about 18 months ago now. And we are, part of the agreement is that we will do an annual update and an annual review and adjustment because these things are changing so fast. So here's some things that just for our future discussion, I really want to know more about, and I don't even, I don't know how much we can at this point, but as I know we discussed previously, there is a new initiative statewide from the governor that we were going to be entering in a partnership with the NVIDIA Corporation, which produces chips, and this involved a $10 million grant from the state to schools, and this is from kindergarten through college age, and they're starting with college. And so I think that's really the only part of it that has really started is that college piece, but it will be then moving down into the public schools. From what I see, they are producing, they're saying they have 600 quote, NVIDIA ambassadors now on college campuses statewide. And these are the school employees, but they're getting some special certification from NVIDIA to be their quote ambassadors in this policy. Now, I am not a conspiracy theorist, for those of you that know me, but I do want to keep an eye on this. I mean, I do find it a little bit concerning that we have, you know, a private corporation who is really going to be setting some significant policy in our public's education. So just to be, I want everybody to be aware of that.
Thank you. Any other questions or items for consideration before we bring it to, I don't know, it probably will be the November work session that we really spend some time on it.
I am curious about if there's any way to implement it to help with teacher workload, whether it's something like grading, or, and also curious what the teachers want with
You
that.
bet.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Thanks. Thank you.
And again, this is a great topic to get some student input in on as well from what you guys are seeing. All right, that brings us to announcements. The board will hold a work session, there it is, Thursday, October 23rd at 6:30 via Zoom. The next regular session will be Thursday, November 6th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. here in City Council chambers. And at this time, we are going to move into an executive session under ORS 1926602I to review and evaluate the performance of the chief executive officer. So I will take a motion for us to move into executive session, and at that time, we will ask the public to leave.
I move that we go into executive session.
I'll second that.
All in favor? All right. I guess, are we actually recording here? We are now returning to open session. No decisions were made during the executive session, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you all.